What's up guys, Excalibur here and welcome back to Star Ocean Automata. So today, I have another character guide for you and I'll be taking a look at Ashton. So, let's go. Ashton is an ace attacker that can heal his own AP with elemental skills and boost all elemental damage by 30%. His first talent, Creepy's Aid, recovers his AP slightly when he uses fire skills, and it also gives him a 15% attack buff for 10 seconds. So Ashton is a dual element attacker. He's got both ice and fire attacks, and they're all very decent. So whenever you use one of his fire attacks, he recovers AP, and that allows him to do some more attacks. And the attack buff is also very nice because he's a DPS type of character, so the extra attack buff puts his attack stat up to those levels. And then his second talent, Weepy's Healing, increases his normal attack AP recovery by 150% when he uses ice skills for 10 seconds. So with this he can sustain himself basically. He doesn't need any help from weapon factors or other characters that can give him normal attack AP recovery, and that is very good. And then his third talent, Sincere Efforts, increase the elemental damage by 30% for the entire party and reduces his own AP cost by 10%. So this is the only form of party buffing that he has, and 30% elemental damage is not too bad, stacked on top of a really strong attacker. So very nice overall, and the AP cost reduction extends his combos a bit. And his last talent, Heir of Symbological Arts, increases the rush combo damage by 10% or 20% when the hit count is at 100 or 200 hits. Now, I'm not sure if this is a mistake they've made, but in JP that's actually a party-wide buff. Rush combo damage is a very rare buff. In fact, there's only a handful of other characters that can give this. Of course, there is an accessory that can give you rush combo damage, but seeing as how Ashton has some really good hit counts to his attacks, you can easily reach 200 hits, which makes Ashton's kind of underwhelming rush a little bit stronger. Now for his battle skills. First up, we have Piercing Blade. Throw a broken sword towards your enemy at a high speed. Its power is determined by multiplying attack by 150%. It does 6 hits, costs 15 AP, and it has an ice element. This is a really fast attack, does a lot of hits, doesn't cost that much AP, and you can use it from range. This is a fantastic skill overall. And then Twin Thrust. Thrust forward twice, and it also recovers 5 AP. Its power is determined by multiplying attack by 200%. It does 2 hits, costs 20 AP, and it has a fire element. And this is supposed to be his weaker fire attack. It's not as good as Piercing Blades, but it does get the job done. It also gives you the attack buff, so that's nice, recovers 5 AP. So overall, it's decent for like setting in the middle of your combo. And then we have Northern Cross. Draw a cross with your sword to summon and launch a cross-shaped icicle at your foe. Its power is determined by multiplying attack by 400%. It does 2 hits, costs 27 AP, and it also has an ice element. Now, in my opinion, this is Ashton's best attack. It's very strong damage-wise, and it also has some really good rush gain. Plus, you can use it from range if you want. Generally, it's better to use this from melee range, though, because you get some extra hits. And then we have Sword Dance. Unleash a flurry of rapid attacks against your foe. It recovers 10 AP. Its power is determined by multiplying attack by 920%. It does 30 hits, costs 39 AP, and it has a fire element. This attack is great for building the hit count, but as you would guess, to compensate, it has a very long animation. Luckily, most of the damage that this attack does is all front-loaded, so the bulk of the damage is all in the first couple of hits, so you can just let those first couple of hits hit the enemy and then just dash cancel it. In most circumstances though, I think Northern Cross is better. And then we have his rush, Try Ace. Thrust the sword imbued with the two-headed dragon's power into your foe. As a post-rush buff, it increases attack by 60% and reduces AP cost by 30% for 20 seconds, and its power is determined by multiplying attack by 3500%. So as I've said before, this rush is kind of underwhelming damage-wise, and that's because Ashton's attack stat is kind of low for a DPS character. It's sitting at 2800, and with his attack buff, it does go up to about 3100, but that's standard for other DPS characters, and they have 4000% multipliers on their rush, so he can't really compete with the other strong characters like Sweet Verda or Winter Fidel. That said, it's still a very strong rush compared to every other character in the game, so put this somewhere between the middle and the end. But the real benefit of this rush is that post-rush buff. A 60% attack buff is something that Ashton desperately needs. Like I said, he has a decently low attack stat, so with this 60%, he gets put on the same level as some of the strongest characters in the game. Post-rush, Ashton is a force to be reckoned with. Alright, now moving on to equipment. Luckily for Ashton, we recently got a new pair of dual blades in the coin shop, the Mephistopher blades. They have an 891 attack stat at max level, imbue your attacks with eyes, give you a 10% life steal when the hit count is at 50, and at Limit Break 3 you unlock the last factor, which gives you 15% extra damage on Sword Dance when the hit count is at 100 or more. These are perfect for Ashton, especially because of that last factor which increases Sword Dance damage. However, they do cost 2 coins each, but I guarantee you it's well worth it, so make sure you grab at least 1 copy, 4 if you want that last factor. And then after that, one of the gacha weapons that you can run with Ashton are the Crimson Fork Tridents, which have a 963 attack stat, give you light imbuement, and they also increase crit hit chance by 10% and crit damage by 15%, and at max limit break you unlock an extra 30% to AP recovery speed. So mostly you would run this for the light element, seeing as how that's one of the elements that Ashton doesn't cover, and the crit hit rate and crit damage is also very nice for him because he doesn't have anything of the sort. And for accessories, obviously we have to run the bunny hair clip because Ashton doesn't have any form of attack damage buffing, so that does not overlap with anything, which is really good. And seeing as how he's got elements on all of his attacks, the extra stun chance is also very good for him. Alright, now moving on to his battle skill setup. As you would guess, Ashton is very flexible when it comes to picking abilities. Usually you would just choose whatever works best against the boss that you're trying to fight, but in general I recommend running Piercing Blades. Very strong combo opener, really good for hit count racking, just very good overall. And then secondly, Twin Thrust, so that you can get the fire attack damage up, as well as have a skill that you can put in the middle of your combo. I'll leave the last skill up to your discretion. Both Sword Dance and Northern Cross are very good, and it all depends on whatever boss you're fighting. But personally I prefer Northern Cross. And then for a combo, you can do a normal attack into Piercing Blades, into Twin Thrust, into either Sword Dance or Northern Cross. You would usually use Northern Cross against very large enemies so that you can get the extra hits, or if a boss is just really dangerous up close, you have a long range attack to fall back on. And Sword Dance, if you're going to use that at the end of your combo, make sure that you dash cancel after the first couple of hits. Ashton is also very flexible when it comes to party building because he's got a lot of self buffs that don't overlap with party-wide buffs, so they always stack. So, for that reason, first I recommend Cat Reina. She increases attack for the entire party by 40% or 60% if you're running a close range weapon. And she also makes charge assaults a lot safer by giving you anti-flinch during it, and she also nullifies the critical you take while you're charge assaulting. So Reina's attack buff stacks with every single one of Ashton's buffs, which can make him do a ton of damage. And if you're running the bunny hair clip on Ashton, you can also charge assault without having to worry about taking critical hits. And then secondly, we're going to run Winter Eve to take advantage of Ashton's good hit counts. She buffs HP for the entire party by 20%. She buffs single target damage by 20% or 40% depending on what the hit count is sitting at, and she also has a lot of good hit counts on her attacks. So Eve and Ashton together should be able to get the hit count to 200 very easily to get that rush damage buff, as well as Eve's 40% single target damage buff. Eve and Ashton also use the same type of weapon, the dual blades, so they're always going to be on element. You don't have to worry about one of them not having the right element. And then lastly, just this once, just because he got buffed, I'm going to put 9S on this list. He buffs damage for the entire party by 45% or 55% if everybody is sitting at full health. He also recovers HP with his rush, a huge 50% HP recovery, and he also increases mobility for the entire party. So while he doesn't help with building the hit count, he does get Reina's full buff because he is technically running a close range weapon. And the HP recovery is also very good because, as you can see, we have no other form of HP recovery. So as I said, Ashton is a very flexible character, and he works best when he's paired with other attack buffers. So now to summarize, Ashton basically has 2 free elements. He's got 2 attacks with fire, 2 attacks with ice, and paired with the fact that he can also run another weapon that can give him an element, he can cover 3 elements in a single match. He also has some very unique self-buffs. Whenever he uses a fire attack, his attack goes up, and whenever he uses an ice attack, his AP recovery on normals goes up. And then to top it off, he has a huge 60% attack buff post-rush, which means that his damage goes through the roof when he's paired with any form of attack buffer or just any party buffer in general. And he's also one of the very few characters in the game that can actually buff rush damage. It is tied to the hit count, but his hit counts are incredibly good, so you don't really have to worry about that. Now, the only unfortunate part about Ashton is that he's kind of underwhelming without his post-rush buff. All of his self-buffs bring him up to about the same level as other DPS characters like Winter Fidel and Sweet Verda, but he can't go beyond that unless he has his post-rush buff, and then his actual rush multiplier is also very low. But after his rush for a good 20 seconds, he is one of the strongest characters in the game. And that's it for Ashton. So I don't know if you guys saw the Square Enix mobile stream, which happened on Friday, I think. I didn't see it because usually it takes place when I'm asleep. But apparently they announced the wedding banners, so those are coming next week. That's pretty interesting. I don't know if I'm gonna pull yet. I do want Maria, so I might throw some pulls at that. And if you're looking for some unadulterated salt, you might get your wish. But hope that was enjoyable, and I guess I'll see you all next time. Peace!